So just actually first cover the summary of the budget, then go to the because of in each sector what all happened, what measures are taken in the budget. Anyway, for the first time, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman presented budget on Sunday because remaining weekday they did not work. So they want to show off that they are working on Sunday also. But anyway, for the first time, budget was presented on Sunday because generally budget is presented on first working day of February. It happened to be Sunday. So that's the reason why even on Sunday also government presented the budget. So if you look at aim of the budget, so probably most of you know, I told you this already, when budget was being presented, stock markets reacted negatively because STT, Security Transaction Tax, is increased in the budget. So because of which stock markets reacted negatively, and surprisingly this year no freebies are announced. That is good thing only, which means government is going more towards rationalization of expenditure. Just like free bus, everybody expected government may announce free train for women. So if they announce, but freebies are not announced, it means rationalization of expenditure. But if you look at, so our Honorable Prime Minister says, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra are not caste of India. There are 4 castes in India: women, poor, youth, farmers. So for them, we are giving importance in the budget. So that's what our Honorable PM said. Anyway, he is good orator. That's why he became Prime Minister. So 3 kartavyas are focused in the government Sankalpa. So first kartavya, sustainable economic growth. Second, aspirations of the people. Third, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. So 3 important pillars of this year budget. Yuva Shakti driven budget, which we call as first, accelerate and sustain economic growth, because geopolitics are not under our control. So enhance productivity, diversify more growth rate towards domestic. That's why first pillar is actually accelerate and sustain economic growth amid the geopolitics. So because of geopolitics, uncertainty is increasing. So our economic growth should not depend upon external factors. Growth should be domestic driven. That's the reason why more importance is given for manufacturing sector in this year budget. Why are you focusing on manufacturing sector, sir? Domestic driven growth rather than external sector, service sector based growth. Why, sir? Service sector itself is under external vulnerabilities. Because look at what happened. H1B visa fees increased. Donald Trump threatened India with the tariffs. So that is the reason why accelerate and sustain economic growth, meaning focus go more internal dependent rather than external oriented. That's called as accelerate and sustainable economic growth. And second is aspirations of the people. Aspirations of the people meaning public welfare, participation of the public in the developmental process. So second kartavya, aspirations of the people. 3 important kartavyas in this budget. Third one is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. So inclusive growth, participation of public in decision making process, benefits should be redistributed to all. Actually, this is tagline of Niti Aayog. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Prayas, Sabka Vishwas. The tagline of Niti Aayog. In this year budget they mentioned inclusive growth, not only inclusive growth, but also including people in the process of economic reforms, including people in the participatory decision making process. So 3 major kartavyas mentioned in the current year budget: accelerate and sustain economic growth amidst geopolitics. Second, fulfilling the aspirations of the people. Third is Sabka Saath and Sabka Vikas. To achieve this, we moved from reform where earlier attitude of government was regulatory. So government moved from regulatory attitude to appropriate control. So which means in all the sectors, now the role of the government is not regulatory attitude from regulatory attitude to move towards appropriate control. What do you mean of regulatory attitude? Everything should be controlled by the government. That is regulatory attitude. What do you mean of appropriate control? Interfere only when it is required. And there are 6 pillars mentioned in the current year budget: sustaining economic growth, strengthening the foundations of the growth, people-centric development, trust-based governance, ease of doing business, fiscal matters. Like that, 6 pillars are there. But if you look at, so manufacturing sector is considered as one of the major driver for economic growth. Why manufacturing sector, sir? Because in India right now, if you look at in pharma sector, in rare metals, in most of textile manufacturing sector in India is labor intensive. Labor intensive means more number of jobs would be generated. Our manufacturing sector is not technical intensive. Technical intensive means machines are used. So we are focusing on PM Mitra Textile Parks, Pradhan Mantri Mega Integrated Textile Region Park. But look at the theme, and this also you can expect. So manufacturing sector is given importance in the budget. In manufacturing sector, textiles, PM Mitra, Prime Minister Mega Integrated Textile Region and Apparel, 5F, fiber, farmer, factory, fashion, foreign. So this is the theme of Prime Minister Mega Integrated Textile Region and Apparel to promote manufacturing of textile. Now what is the meaning of this? The cotton or the fiber textile material should be used for manufacturing of global products. We should use our cloth not only for producing textiles in our country, but to produce fashionable goods and to export them to foreign countries also. This is called as 5F, theme of PM Mitra Textile Parks. Fiber to farmer, farmer to factory, factory to fashion, fashion to foreign. Which means the textile industry should be made not just domestic oriented. We should be able to export textiles to the world also. That's the reason why we are focusing on 5F, Prime Minister Mega Integrated Textile Region and Apparel. In biopharma industry, we are trying to promote actually patented medicine and generic medicine. So clarity is important for prelims. Patented medicine, generic medicine and biosimilars. So already we know patented medicine means others should not manufacture it. Only the organization which has exclusive license only can manufacture. That is called as patented medicine up to 20 years. After patent is expired, anybody can manufacture it. That is called as generic medicine. And in biopharma Shakti, in the current year budget, we are focusing on development of biosimilars. See, India is the largest producer of generic medicines in the world. India is popularly called as global pharmacy hub. Now, what is biosimilar? Biosimilar is not exact copy of the medicine, but some similar components are used, which are used generally in the normal medicine. Similarity is there, but not exact cut copy. That is called as biosimilar. So what is patented product? What is generic product? What is biosimilar? Again, we have been dependent on rare earth metals. It's probably for prelims important. What is the meaning of rare earth metals? They are not available in the form which can be directly used. They are available. Actually, we'll study in geography. Monazite sands. From monazite sands, we extract certain minerals. From that minerals, after you purify it, then the purified minerals are available which are used in the industry. So previous year question also I think so. Rare earth metals are found in monazite sands. So these rare earth metals, we are dependent on so many countries. So around 17 rare earth metals, we are trying to diversify it. Which means don't depend upon only Taiwan, don't depend upon only on China, because global supply chain disruptions are directly impacting our manufacturing. So that's the reason why labor intensive, and one more important thing that government focused, we should manufacture our semiconductor chips by ourselves. We should not depend upon too much of global supply chain. That's why 3 places government announced indigenous semiconductor manufacturing. So where are those 3 places? 3 places we started manufacturing of our own semiconductors. One, Morigao in Assam, Sanand and Dholera in Gujarat, not Dholavira. So these 3 are the places in which India permitted indigenous manufacturing of semiconductor chips. Why are you focusing on semiconductor chips, sir? What is the reason? Directly, modern day electronic industry depend upon semiconductor chips only. Heart and brain of all electronic items. OLED, LED, LCD, OLED, glow LED, mobile, even mobile screen also, automobile cluster also, all. So probably we can expect to reduce dependence on semiconductor supply chain global market. Our government permitted indigenous manufacturing of semiconductors. Of course, blue economy already we covered. Then one of the major observation is, if you import plant and machinery, plant and machinery is capital goods only. So what is the meaning of capital goods? Goods which are used in process of production are called as capital goods. If Indian businesses import capital goods, plant and machinery, on all this import of plant and machinery, basic duty is reduced by the government. So what is the meaning of basic duty? Customs duty when goods are coming to the customs point. That is called as basic duty. So if you, what is mentioned in the current year budget, if goods are imported, which means capital goods are imported, look at the word, if capital goods are imported, at the time of import, basic custom duty is reduced. So what happens to cost of manufacturing for the importers? Reduces. So it helps them in producing more. Suppose I am having a garment factory. I am importing 20 machines from Korea. So government reduced customs duty. Means I will pay less compared to normal. Why, sir? We have to boost manufacturing sector. That is the reason why. Again, 2 schemes are there. PLI, Production Linked Incentive Scheme, Design Linked Incentive Scheme. If your turnover crosses above certain limit in a specific sector, government will offer power at subsidy, water at subsidy, production linked incentive. If you want to get incentives, increase your production capacity. If you want to increase your production capacity, what happens to employment opportunities? What happens to GDP growth rate? So production linked incentive, design linked incentive also is announced in manufacturing sector. Now again, if you look at overall, we introduced assistance, export credit assistance also. Actually in PSL also export credit is there. MSMEs are considered champions of growth. Now probably 10 lakh per consignment on courier exports. In simple, if you look at the numbers, MSMEs necessary financial assistance is provided, and something is introduced in this year budget, threads for MSME. So what is this threads for MSME? Trade receivables, it's called as. Very simple only. So trade receivables is a credit facility for the MSMEs, which means a simple way to understand how trade receivables will happen. Suppose any MSME, micro, small and medium enterprises, is purchasing from a public sector undertaking. it will not pay the consignment amount immediately. So in simple, let's say a textile MSME is actually manufacturing goods. When PSU has given a contract for MSME to manufacture certain things, MSME required raw materials. So PSU will only pay advance 10% or 20% to MSME. Suppose BHEL has given an order to manufacture something to an MSME. Now total amount will not be paid by BHEL. BHEL only will pay some advance amount. But BHEL will give the paper, contract paper, which means for how many machines BHEL entered into agreement with MSME. When BHEL is going to pay this amount? After products are manufactured and delivered to BHEL. But this agreement is signed for purchase of this. This agreement is permitted as a credit guarantee, and banks and NBFCs can give credit to MSMEs based on this agreement. Means what? MSME is going to get the money, not now. When? In future, after the goods are manufactured and it is handed over to BHEL. But till then, MSME needs funds to run, to buy the raw materials. So this paper can be accepted as guarantee by the banks and NBFCs. Banks and NBFCs can give working capital to MSME. Based on what? Based on the contract. So later, when goods are manufactured, when BHEL gives actual money to MSME, MSME would repay to the bank. So this is called as a TREDS mechanism. In simple, if an MSME is having a contract for delivering of something, that contract also can be used as a guarantee for providing assistance to them. With this, what can happen? They can buy the raw material, they can run, but as they complete the contract, they would get the money anyway. So later that money they would repay to the bank. So this is called a TREDS mechanism, which was introduced in this year budget. It's like credit. Like a small hotel, when they are purchasing groceries, all this, they are not paying cash. They are telling, look, we have this agreement called wedding, engagement, all this. So we need this raw materials. But based on this agreement, give us credit. Once we get money from there, we will repay. So MSME can work better. That is the reason why TREDS mechanism is introduced. Anyway, not important for us how TREDS work also, but only for namesake we have written. Then if you look at in this year budget, government talked about care economy. What do you mean of care economy? We are not calculating care economy activities in GDP estimation. So because of which our GDP estimation is not actually reflecting popularly. Care economy means certain activities in which economic activities are performed but they are not monetarily estimated, which is called as care economy. Mother taking care of the child. If she is working somewhere else for those many hours, 4 hours or 6 hours, what would happen to economic activity? She will get some income, but we are not estimating that. A nurse is taking care of her own parents in the house. So this is called as care economy. Then India is popularly known for medical tourism, spiritual tourism, economic tourism. And one more word is becoming popular, which is called as silver economy. Just like orange economy, medical tourism already we know, spiritual tourism already we know. But what is this geriatric care or silver economy? In this year budget, word is used silver economy or geriatric healthcare. Silver economy means production of goods which are related to elderly healthcare or old people healthcare. So that is called as silver economy or geriatric economy. So orange economy, silver economy, blue economy, care economy. So silver meaning or geriatric meaning, see, visual aids or certain equipment which are used for the use of the adult people. See, most of, not adult people, elderly people, most of elderly people are suffering from dementia. Dementia means they're forgetting themselves. So we are also forgetting ourselves, that is different thing. But this is adult dementia, that is old age dementia. Then hearing aid problems, hearing aid assistance. So all these are called as geriatric care or silver economy. Then for the first time, India is going to host Big Cat Alliance. So probably ecology environment is studied. So there are 7 big cats, correct only? So what are those 7 big cats? Tiger, lion, jaguar, leopard, snow leopard, probably cheetah, puma. These are called as 7 big cats. For the first time, India is going to organize Big Cat Alliance, correct only? Are already organized. So 7 Big Cat Alliance. Then Buddhist circuits are being developed, probably for promoting Buddhist tourism. So something you'll study something called Mahayana Buddhism. So Theravada Buddhism. In Buddhism, spiritual tourism, to promote spiritual tourism only they are doing all this. Then probably government announced eco-friendly tourism, transfer pricing. So tax efficiency should be improved in the budget. Coming to financial sector, yes, 81 bonds are declared as invalid, already we covered. Government is focusing on promotion of municipal bonds for more than 1000 crore. In the budget itself, government said through municipal bonds more than 1000 crore funds would be generated. Urban local bodies will generate, and bank consolidation would continue. What do you mean of bank consolidation? Merging of the banks. Till we have 4 large banks. Finally, we will have only large 4 public sector banks. Till then, all public sector banks would be consolidated. One state, one RRB also we discussed. Then STT is increased from 0.0 to 0.05. So because of which, when STT was announced, stock markets reacted negatively. Already we discussed security transaction tax, capital gains tax, and so on. Then Ashok Dalwai committee suggested doubling of farmers' income. For doubling of farmers' income, integrated farming is suggested. What is meaning of integrated farming? Agriculture, animal husbandry, agriculture, sericulture, agriculture, aquaculture, all that. Then we discuss something called zero budget natural farming. Zero budget natural farming is promoted by whom? Subhash Palekar. By following the natural methods of agriculture, Jivamruta, Bijamruta, Achadana, Vapsa, Sanskrit words, no need to remember. If farmer follow traditional conventional methods of agriculture, no need to depend upon artificial input, no need to depend upon artificial fertilizers, cost of cultivation will be reduced to zero. That's why that is called as zero budget natural farming. Bharatiya Prakritik Krushi Paddhati. It is actually propounded by a person called Subhash Palekar. So zero budget natural farming is promoted by Subhash Palekar. Our Union Finance Minister talked about zero budget natural farming in the budgetary speech. So which means by using traditional methods of agriculture, reduce cost of cultivation to zero. So which means nature has all the resources required. We did not do separately anything. Artificial inputs are not required. That method is called as zero budget natural farming. Then one of the expected question for this year prelims from agriculture chapter may be DMH 11. Dara mustard hybrid 11 is high yielding variety seed of GM mustard. So Supreme Court has taken up public interest litigation and told that after completing large scale field trial, then only GM mustard variety called DMH 11 should be permitted. So previous year question, which is the apex authority for permitting GM crops in India? GEAC, Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee. Constitutional body or statutory body? Statutory body. GEAC is statutory body. which is the only crop which is permitted for commercial cultivation in India, GM crop, BT cotton, Bacillus thuringiensis. BT brinjal moratorium was imposed, not permitted, which means restrictions were introduced on BT brinjal. After that, DMH 11 permission was given by GAC, which is challenged in Supreme Court. Supreme Court neither supported nor rejected. Supreme Court said, first conduct a large scale field trial about GM mustard, later examine and then give probably permission for commercial cultivation of DMH 11. So this is called as DMH 11, Dara mustard hybrid 11. Probably we might expect. Then government is also focusing on integrated farming. Government is also focusing on Kisan credit card, CAPEX, but multimodal logistic parks. Actually, current year budget, new dedicated freight corridors are announced in the budget. Probably list out 4 or 5 are there. So which of them are not following or which of them are not getting connected, all that. So in the budget, coastal cargo promotion scheme is also announced, and central public sector enterprises, for central public sector enterprises, dedicated real estate investment trust are established. Let's say to look after BDL land, RE8 registered by BEL will look after. Means government land, central public sector enterprise land will be developed by its own real estate agency. So apart from that, 20 new national waterways, so new dedicated freight corridors, probably East Coast Industrial Corridor. So just list out what are they. And coming to long-term energy security, yes, India wants to achieve net zero emission by when? 2070. Indian Railways wants to achieve net zero emission by when? 2030. To achieve this, Panchamrita targets are there. Renewable energy, COP, Conference of Parties, Panchamrita targets. Then 7 high-speed rail corridors are planned. Mumbai, Pune, Pune, Hyderabad, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi, Varanasi, Varanasi, Siliguri. So these are 7 high-speed rail corridors. Maybe list out later. 7 high-speed rail corridors. Anyway, factual data is not important, but sometimes examiner may ask. Groups exam they'll ask all this. But UPSC is more interested in overview of the policy. So in simple, through all this, what is that we are trying to do? Infrastructure development, which is called as CAPEX. Major CAPEX is on roadways, major CAPEX on railways. But if you look at the numbers, CAPEX number is important. So if you look at earlier, financial year 2015, CAPEX was around 2 lakh crore. Same number in financial year 26-27 is 12.2 lakh crore. So look at 10 years before, CAPEX was 2 lakh crore. In the span of 10 years, CAPEX is increased by 10 lakh crore. Which means CAPEX in the last 10 years kept on increasing. 2015 financial year CAPEX actually was 2 lakh crore. But today, CAPEX expenditure is 12.2 lakh crore. Meaning there is increase in CAPEX, capital expenditure. Then smart cities, urbanization, also infrastructure development. Probably whenever we talk about, even for defense corridors are planned, simple rules and regulations, exemption from MAT. 16th Finance Commission already we covered. So 16th Finance Commission vertical devolution is accepted in the budget. So what do you mean of vertical devolution? 41% of vertical devolution is already accepted. And around 8 lakh crore should be distributed to states and local bodies. According to 16th Finance Commission recommendations, grants. But what you have to list out today from budget is rupee comes from. List out in the order highest to lowest. So I'll just give 2-3 examples, you'll understand. Out of total 1 rupee that government is getting, most of the money is coming from which of them? That's the meaning of this. So you will be surprised. Out of total 1 rupee that government is coming, 24% is coming from borrowings and liabilities. Which means out of 1 rupee, 24 paisa is coming from where? Borrowings and liabilities. After borrowing and liabilities, if you look at the remaining taxes and all this income, surprisingly, income tax 21%, corporation tax 18%. So 21% is coming from income tax. I'm just listing out top 4. 18% is coming from corporate tax. So out of total government income that we are talking about, sir, then what about GST, sir? From GST 15%. So these are top 4 from where government is getting income out of 1 rupee. So similarly, because our borrowing is more, in expenditure also what would happen? Highest expenditure is also towards interest payment. So I'll just list out top 4 expenditure from where rupee is going out. So which means when rupee is going out, expenditure, what constitute top 4 percentage? Because sometimes examiner is interested in knowing. Obviously, most of money we are spending for borrowing. So interest payment also is around 20%, but compared to interest payment, divisible pool of taxes. So 22% center has to give to states share of the taxes, and 20% interest payments out of expenditure. Because just now we said most of money is coming from borrowing and liabilities. If you look at the remaining all numbers after interest payment, central sector schemes, so almost 17%. Actually every percentage is not required. Top 3 or top 4 you supposed to know, because major contributor they will ask. Now apart from this, if you look at defense expenditure is accounting for around 11%. So but when you look at the budget document, you will understand top 3 expenditure part, top 3 income part, or 3-4, just know, not more than that. Now in the last page of the budget, whenever we talk about, so trend is there. I will just list out the trend only, no need to remember. Tax revenue percentage. Tax revenue for the last several years is increasing. Lakhs of the crores. Which means what? Tax buoyancy is good. What do you mean of tax buoyancy? If GDP is growing, tax revenue also should increase. For the last 3 to 4 years, tax revenue for the government is increasing. Non-tax revenue trend. Non-tax revenue is also increasing. What do you mean of non-tax revenue? Fee, penalty, service charges, all. However, non-debt capital receipt. So you look at non-debt capital receipt means, remember, disinvestment, not debt receipt. Non-debt capital receipt, there is uneven, means there is no clarity, no increase, no decrease, fluctuations are there. Look at the trend. Tax revenue is increasing, non-tax revenue is also increasing, but non-debt capital receipt. Non-debt capital receipt means disinvestment income. Remember, disinvestment income is shown under capital account. Non-debt, because no need to repay. Non-debt capital receipts are uneven, means there is no observable trend. So then out of total, first 3 highest allocation for this year budget is transportation, defense and rural development. Out of total fund that are allocated of expenditure, major 3 components of expenditure is transportation, defense and rural development. 1, 2, 3. So probably if you just know the highlights of the budget, that's more than enough. Anyway, I'll post the PDF, so don't worry, you can just see. If you still want to read, you can read also. Anyway, at the end of the PDF, I'll post the video also. Separate video is available for budget, separate video is available for economic survey. Probably you can just look at it. So that still if you want to add extra data, you can get. But if you're thorough with national income, inflation, monetary policy, financial market, taxation, external sector basics, concepts should be clear.